What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'm going over 10 golf exercises that if you only had to do 10 for the rest of your life, these are the best ones that you should be doing. Let's get right into it. So if you're in the fitness space at all, this is a commonly asked question amongst some of the most famous fitness influencers and bodybuilders and powerlifters. If you had to pick 10 exercises, which 10 are you picking? And I figured it would be cool to do this for golf. The reason being, golf has such a stigma when it comes to exercise and training for their particular sport. I figured this would be an interesting list because most of the movements on this list kind of break that stigma. Because you only have 10 exercises. So you've got to compromise with some, then you have to get the best bang for your buck for others. This is definitely going to be a list that most golf trainers would not agree on, but it's a list where all of the movements can be, number one, progressively overloaded, meaning you can either increase the intensity, the frequency, or the weight to the point of failure or progressing week over week. Number two, they work multiple things at one time. So it might be a compound lift, it might be working through multiple planes of motion, it might be working multiple muscle groups at the same time, but it can still be progressively overloaded. And then number three, they're not very golf specific. You know, they're not what you would typically see golfers doing. So here's how I broke up the list. I have 2 lower body movements, I have 2 upper body movements, I have 2 power movements, and then I have 2 kind of full body conditioning movements that can be done multiple different ways. And then I have 2 golf specific movements that I think every golfer should be doing specifically for their sport. So the first one's gonna be back squat, obviously. Back squat is arguably the king of all lifts. It's a compound lift working multiple different muscle groups. And if you just had to do this one for legs, you would cover almost all of your bases. You're working your glutes, you're working your quads, you're working some hamstrings, you're working your core, you're working your upper back, pinning the bar to your shoulders. There's multiple variations of back squat. You've got back squat, you've got front squat, you've got overhead squat, you've got a yoke bar squat. It's one of the best movements you can do for strength and hypertrophy, and also power output. You can do lighter weights, so 75% of your 1 rep max, and then do those explosively. You can do them off of a box. A very versatile movement, and one that you can switch up and do just about anything with. So back squat was obviously one on the list. Next one for legs is gonna be an RDL. Working the hamstrings, you're not getting a lot of hamstring work in the squat, but with that RDL, you're isolating the hamstring and the glutes. You're getting a hip hinge along with your squat, and you're loading that lower back. Obviously the lower back is a super important thing to work in the golf swing. So in that RDL, you're keeping that back flat, engaging your core, moving your hips back through space. It's just a good posterior chain movement, kind of similar to the deadlift, but since we already have a big compound lift, I wanted a different accessory movement that still worked a lot of muscle groups and really targeted the hamstrings and the glutes. Number 3 is bench press. Big compound lift for the upper body, working multiple joints, working multiple muscle groups, your pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, your front delts, your triceps. And if you train full range of motion, you're gonna keep that mobility. And then you can, again, progressively overload this through a program. You can increase the weight, the frequency, and the intensity to go to or close to failure, and increase week to week. That's the most important part of progressive overload. So had to throw that one in there. The next one is a single arm dumbbell row. So I'm working unilateral. I can get some rotation in that single arm row, and then I can pull and rotate at the top. So I'm not only working my lats, my rear delts, my traps, right? I'm working that scapular extension and that scapular retraction, as well as getting some core work with that unilateral. So the weight's on one side, bracing that core and that lower back to pull that weight through space. All right, so now we're going to our power movements. Power training is super important in golf because it is a fast, powerful movement. You have to move something rapidly through space with maximal force or maximal effort. A med ball hip pop is one that's sports specific, that you can progressively overload, move that ball with maximum intent and do that for multiple reps and sets with rest in between. And that's really gonna help that fast, powerful rotation through the golf ball. That's one power output movement that I think every golfer should be doing anyway. And that's one that in this list of 10 is gonna be a staple in training. Then the next one's gonna be a box jump. Power comes from the hips, and if I can't rapidly and explosively extend the hips and recruit those fast twitch muscle fibers, I'm never gonna get more powerful, and I'm never gonna swing the golf club faster and harder. So a box jump is a really simple, applicable power output movement that you can progress. You can do a normal box jump. You can do an approach box jump. You can do a box jump with a rotation. You can do repetitive box jumps. There's tons of ways that you can do this exercise that's going to positively impact your golf swing. A really good movement to keep and sustain your power output and just help you move like an athlete. The next two are kind of our outlying strength and conditioning movements. The first one's gonna be a farmer's carry. Love doing the farmer's carry because it's moving a heavy load through space, forcing you to stabilize and control your core. All right, the front, your abs, and then the rector spinae, and your lats, and the lower back. You can get a whole lot of weight on these, move that body through space. That's a really good kind of conditioning core, you know, off the wall movement that you can do consistently, and then again, a lot of different variations with that farmer's carry. And then the next one's gonna be a sled push. I almost put lunges in there as a unilateral movement because you need unilateral work in your lower body, but I figured a sled push would be a lot better and you'd have a lot more use cases with a sled push. So you're still getting some unilateral work, but it's just an overall core power conditioning movement. You can push that sled fast for power output. You can push it slow and heavy for strength, but you're having to step and drive off of each leg individually to move that sled through space. I figured that would be a great one for golfers and just athletes in general to work that overall, you know, lower body strength and conditioning. So sled push, a good one. If you're not trying that as a golfer, you need to start putting some sled pushes in your program. And then the last two are my golf specific movements that really every golfer should be doing. The first one is hyperextensions, whether that's a hyperextension off of a GHD, a 45-degree hyperextension, a reverse hyperextension. Either one of those variations are going to be great for strengthening the lower back and the posterior chain. Obviously, golfers are hinged over at the hips a lot. If you're a smaller golfer, you have to rotate your body through the ball and contort your body to get that lag to keep up with the guys who are a little bit bigger. And if you're not working on that lower back and that spinal flexion and spinal mobility, you're gonna get injured. Working those hyperextensions, I would do those almost every session so you can just really get some strength in that lower back. So that's number 9. And then finally, number 10 is a cable oblique rotation. Golf is a rotating power sport, so we need to be working through that plane of motion, and that cable is going to keep a consistent resistance through that entire range of motion, and it's something that can be progressively overloaded. You can do it slow and isolated, really working the core and the obliques. You can do it powerfully, working the hips, and you can increase the intensity of the movement and the frequency. So cable oblique rotations, a really good one to round out that list. And that's it for my list. If I only had to choose 10 exercises for golf and to train golfers, these would be my 10. Let me know what you guys think of the list, if you had to add any or take away any, or if you want to know more about why I chose these movements. Make sure to like the video and leave a comment down below, and I'll be happy to talk to you about why I chose the ones that I chose. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to see this different type of golf content. I'm gonna be doing a golf exercise tier ranking coming out soon, so make sure to turn on the notifications to see that video. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.